There is a number that haunts an entire generation of Thailand. It's not dramatic. It doesn't make headlines. It's just a figure on a payslip. 16,000 baht. Around 470 US dollars a month. For millions of young Thais, that number is the ceiling of their entire working life. And in 2026, it has quietly become a trap. One that is reshaping marriage, family, ambition, and hope itself. Tourists see a paradise of beaches and $2 street food. But behind that glossy brochures, a generation is doing the math on their own future and finding that it no longer adds up. This is the story of the 16,000 baht trap. Let's start with the wage itself. In Thailand today, a fresh university graduate typically earns somewhere between 15 and 20,000 baht a month. 16,000 is a fair market for that entry point. And for many, it barely moves for years. Here's the problem. That number has stayed remarkably flat, frozen in place, even as the cost of living in 2026 has surged around it. The price of food, transport, and rent climbs every year. The salary does not. So each year, that same 16,000 baht buys a little less life than it did the year before. And there's a cruel psychology to it. Imagine working full-time, a real job, 5 or 6 days a week, and still living below what economists would call the survival line in modern Bangkok. You did everything right. You studied, you graduated, you got the job, and you still can't get ahead. That's a specific kind of exhaustion. Not the exhaustion of laziness, but the exhaustion of running hard and staying in exactly the same place. And it cuts deeper for graduates. This new economy demands more than ever. Digital skills, English, long hours, constant upskilling. But the compensation at the bottom hasn't kept pace with those demands. So a generation of degree holders is left staring at their diploma and asking a dangerous question. What was it actually worth? When the promise was, study hard and you will be secure. And the reality is a frozen wage and a mountain of costs. That promise starts to feel like a lie. Now, let's talk about where most of that 16,000 baht goes before it's even touched. Rent. Here is the single most brutal statistic in this entire story. In 2026, the average studio apartment in Bangkok rents for around 19,000 baht a month. A one-bedroom averages closer to 28,000. The average studio costs more than the average entry-level salary. The rent alone can exceed the entire paycheck. Think about what that does to a young person's option. It means renting a decent place near your job on your own is simply impossible. So what happens? Several things, and none of them are good. Part of it is a transformation of the city itself. As Bangkok became a global hotspot, a magnet for tourists and increasingly for well-paid digital nomads earning Western salaries, landlords adjusted their prices to the highest bidder. Neighborhoods that were once affordable for locals have been steadily gentrified, and the young Thai earning 16,000 baht is now quietly competing for housing against the foreigner earning 5 or 10 times that, in the same building, on the same street. You can't even taste the change. The cheap, beloved street food stores and traditional markets that made city life livable are slowly being pushed out, replaced by high-cost convenience chains and trend cafes priced for tourists, not for the people who grew up there. And so the youth are pushed outward to the far edges of the city, the distant suburbs where rent is merely painful instead of impossible. But the solution comes with its own hidden tax: time. Hours of commuting every single day, unpaid, packed into buses and trains, added onto an already exhausting workday. You save on rent and you pay with your life, 1 2-hour commute at a time. When you can't get ahead, can't afford a home, can't build savings, eventually something breaks, not the economy, the dream itself. And across Thailand's youth, you can see a quiet, collective decision forming to stop playing a game they cannot win. You may have heard of the lying flat movement, a philosophy that spread across Asia where young people deliberately opt out. Not out of laziness, but out of arithmetic. If working yourself to exhaustion still leaves you broke, why sacrifice everything? So a growing number of young Thais are consciously stepping back from the traditional milestones, delaying or foregoing marriage, choosing not to have children, simply because the numbers make those dreams feel financially reckless. Compare that to the generation before. Their parents, for all their struggles, could reasonably dream of owning a home, a piece of land, a house, something to pass down. For today's workforce, that dream has been replaced by the near certainty of renting for life. The ladder that previous generations climbed has had its bottom long sawn off. And underneath it all, a quiet resentment is growing. Because young Thais watch an economy that seems to bend over backwards for foreign spending power, for tourism, for the visitor's dollar, for the digital nomad's rent, while their own purchasing power withers. When a country appears to prioritize the wallet of the guest over the wage of the citizen eventually stop feeling like they belong in their own future. Which leads to the final, and perhaps most consequential chapter. When a generation loses faith in the system at home, the most talented among them do the rational thing. They look for the exit. This is Thailand's growing brain drain, and the numbers in 2026 are genuinely startling. Surveys suggest that around 60% of Thais under 30 and nearly half of those holding a master's degree or higher are actively eyeing opportunities abroad, seeking better wages and a fairer shot elsewhere. These are not the people a country can afford to lose. They are its doctors, its engineers, its most educated and ambitious young minds. And the long-term risk is a slow-motion crisis. Thailand is already an aging society with a shrinking pool of young workers. Now imagine that shrinking pool losing its most capable members to immigration, while those who remain increasingly opt out of having families of their own. That is the recipe for a demographic and economic squeeze that could define the nation for decades. Fewer workers, more retirees, and a broken sense that hard work leads anywhere. So we arrive at the ultimate question. Is the Thai dream salvageable? Or is the 16,000 baht trap a one-way road? Here is where I want to be careful and fair. Because losing hope is a heavy phrase, and despair is not the whole truth. This generation is not weak. Arguably, they are more resilient, more adaptable, and more clear-eyed than any before them. They are not refusing to work. They are refusing to pretend that a broken equation isn't broken. That's not surrender, that's honesty. And a trap, unlike a dead end, has a way out. If the structure that built it changes, wages can rise, housing can be protected, debt can be regulated, an economy can be rebalanced to serve the people who live in it, not only the people who visit it. None of that is easy, but none of it is impossible either. The 16,000 baht on the payslip is not just a number. It's a test of whether a country will fight for the future of its own young people or watch them quietly walk away. That story is still being written, and the generation living it deserves to be heard, not just counted.